Thank you for coming to rewire your negative thoughts. That's what this is about. So the whole point of this, for me, I've been on that journey of taking my negative thoughts and rewiring them. So I can fire off better feelings in the body, fire off better actions, and get myself into a better place. So I'll take you through what's in store for today. So today, there's a very brief introduction. We'll go into why we want to shift our negative thoughts. We'll go into a thing called Hebbs law. This is the thing we're going to use to help us shift it. And then we'll go into this part here is the activities. We're going to be doing a very much activity-based session today. So we're going to have a negative thought. We're going to have a positive thought, or the opposite ideal self, and then we're going to use a concept called the Swish Pattern. And the Swish Pattern is going to use this Hebbs law. So that's what's in store for what we're about to do. I won't spend too much time on each point because I like to get into the activity. Right? I like to get into the doing part. So I'll explain a little bit of theory, but then we'll jump into the theory. And the first thing I want to talk about, well, firstly myself, my name's Tait, and you know me, Stevie.
Yeah.
And for the camera, I'm an NLP coach, life coach, hypnotherapist, self-directed healer, and I help people to shift their internal state so that the world shows up differently for them. And negative self-talk is one of those things. So that's what I love to do, that's my coaching practice, but I love doing these seminars for people free to show them what's possible so they can have an internal experience and see that they can master their own world. Because I want them to know that they can move themselves forward and not feel broken. I want them to be open, empowered, fully in control of their own life. So that's what I like to do. So the first thing I thought I'd do is I'd share with you why we want to shift our internal thinking. The internal thinking, the negative thoughts. And what's an example of negative thoughts? Well, for me, you can say things like, oh, I don't think I'm smart enough, I haven't got enough experience. You can have self-sabotage, where clearly something's going wrong in your mind. You can have imposter syndrome, where you're not thinking I'm enough for this thing that I'm trying to do. Could be starting a business, could be getting yourself out there, could be advertising, whatever it is, doesn't matter. There's negative self-talk going on about yourself, or negative talk about everyone around you, which is a reflection of what's going on inside you. So my goal is not to change everyone else, my goal is to help the person change inside, then everyone else magically changes around them. That's the theory. So I'll go into this part first, and I've got a fantastic little example of this. This is called the map of consciousness. Now, each one of these numbers here is a vibration in Hertz. It's a vibration, a low vibration of shame, guilt, apathy, grief, and fear. When we're down here, our thinking's very low and our actions are very low because our energy's low. When we're in this apathy or grief or guilt, we don't get ourselves out there, we stay contracted, is what this says here. We are contracted. Conversely, as we work our way up this scale, because we have to shift through these emotions, you get up the scale, you get up to courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, and it can even move you forward. And then love, joy, peace, and enlightenment, and you move up the scale. And when you move up the scale, obviously your actions are better. Obviously you've got more options in front of you. Obviously you are stepping forward as opposed to suffering. So down here is more suffering, up here is empowerment. And that's what we want. We're moving forward in life. And so as you look through here and you think about any of your negative self, where would you live on this scale? Stevie, one example for yourself. Where would you live on that scale?
Well, right, I would say willingness.
Willingness. Fantastic. That's a good vibration, right? But of course, if we have any negative self-talk and we're starting off with willingness, what happens? We go down the scale, and with it, all of our energy, our efforts, our abilities, our scalability, everything goes down. We end up down in this fear area. Everyone gets afraid. So it's very easy to start to slip down. And my goal today is to keep you at willingness, and so that you can stay there and then figure out a way to moving up to acceptance, to reason, to love, to joy, right? So the idea is we don't slip down too far. We're allowed to slip a little bit because we're human, but not let the negative spiral go down. That's what today's about. It's about, all right, you've got a negative thought, accept what is. We do need the negative thought, but don't let it replay 300 times in your brain, become a story that hypnotizes you into negative action. Right? So I want you to get up the scale, at least maintain up in this higher vibration, not down in this lower vibration. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm just amazed with how simplistic you've described that. It's all about the frequency that we're at, it's what we're at. So, yeah, thank you.
You think about it. I mean, when you're down and you're having a bad day, how's your energy? Your vibration has to be down. If somehow one could get a hertz thermometer in your body, you would definitely be down, right? So this is by Dr. David Hawkins, The Map of Consciousness. I think he also has a book called Force versus Power, and how you play with these things inside yourself.
Would you say that is the primary law with vibration, isn't it?
Vibration is everything. And we are vibrating, and we're sending out signals actually. Like your heart, for example, is sending out a signal that can be measured electromagnetically. I think it's 2 meters or 8 feet away from your body. Now, if that's sending out that signal, it's also sending out your emotions, your intentions, all sorts of things. And people unconsciously pick up on that vibe. So if you can get yourself up to this area, life's going to be a lot better. You're going to attract a lot better people. If you're down here around, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, and fear, the humans you attract are not going to be that wonderful, are they? Because they pick up on the vibe, and they all of a sudden appear magically in your world. Equally, joy, love, and peace. These people will appear in your world.
What's stimulated, what's draining, and positive, negative.
So this is the map of consciousness. It's a good conversation to have, and as a result, we come up and down this scale. And my goal for me and you and everyone is not to slip too many cogs down and spiral down into a negative place. To hold ourselves and then try and keep on moving ourselves up. That's what this Swish Pattern, Hebbs law today is all about. It's firing off better energy to get you back to an empowered place. So that is the very first little part. That's the energy part that was on this, why we want our thinking and our energy to lift. That's why, that was that part there. Now let's move on to Hebbs' law. And the next part was Hebbs' law. And this is his theory, is we want to, sorry, one. Here we go. This is Hebbs' law. Donald O. Hebbs from Canada was basically someone who was measuring all of this, and he connected psychology and neuroscience. And what he realized was that neurons in your brain, thought patterns that fire together, what this is here, neurons that fire together, wire together. What that means is, an example we talked about, a simple one would be, what does red mean? It meant danger to you. On the road, it means stop. And that's an example of neurons that are now connected. But there could also be examples of, do you have a song that you hear, when you hear that song, it fires off emotions in the body? There'd be an example of a song that you hear sometimes.
Stranger on the shore, Antidote.
Stranger on the shore. So when that song fires off, it fires off emotions of a past time. So those neurons have connected still together to access that old feeling, that old emotion. Yeah? So there's lots of examples of neurons that fire together, wiring together. And what we want to do is we're going to today grab a positive example in your life and connect it to your negative self-talk so that it takes you out of that and back into that happy place, back into the more empowered place. Stops the negative downward spiral that we talked about in the scale of consciousness. So that's the idea, is that there's a thing called the swish pattern. And what it does is the swapping out of a feeling, the swapping out of negative to positive, especially if we get your positive, is empowering, because it takes the negative thought comes up and then automatically positive thought will fire off. We still need to accept what is, we still need to deal with the negative in life, but we're not going to spiral downwards to 5 million thoughts of the negative into sadness and grief. We're going to spiral, at least levitate and find an answer, so we're in a better emotional place, better energy, not going to move ourselves forward. We do this every day, unconsciously, every second of the day, and today you will master your biology. That's what this is about. Remember, our brain is biological. It's not a computer, it's a biological computer. It's biologically wired to our body. Our body is firing off feelings to the brain is then repeating those thoughts to get the feelings back, and it's this loop. We're bypassing that loop and firing off old experiences that you've got that are good instead of the ones that you currently got. Does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense.
So that's the idea, is we want to stop the downward spiral. So that's what Hebbs' law is about. Neurons that fire together wire together, and you get to choose what fires with what. Your brain's doing it by itself. Let's actually choose it for you. So that is the Hebbs' law rule. And so here we are at Hebbs' law. And so now let's move into the first activity, and that is the negative thought, and neutralizing a negative thought. And I can take you through a couple of little examples of a negative thought. I'll give you some stories. Let me bring up my negative thought page. Activity 1, negative thought neutralizer. So what we've got when we store our feelings and our thoughts, they come in the form of, we've got auditory sounds, there are pictures, and there are feelings. And if you've got a thought, that's the digital part. And what we do is we actually play with the structure of it. We don't get into story. One of the things that often happens is that people will access an old thought or an old feeling, and they'll go into the story, which is probably the worst thing we can do, because the story keeps reinforcing the negative feeling, right? What we want to do is fire off something better instead. And that's what I do with my coaching clients. So we play with this recurring negative thought, especially if it's a thought about you, or it's a thought about, oh, I'm no good at this, or I'm no good at that. Half the battle is catching the negative thought. Like, you've got to actually be aware of it. It actually can fire off in the background without you even knowing it. And you've got this opinion of yourself that I'm no good, or I've got this opinion that I'm not smart enough, or you've not got enough experience and not willing to take a step forward. So you don't even have to know, I don't even have to know what the negative thought is. All I need to know is that you've got one. Do you have one in your mind, a negative thought that might pop up on a regular basis that you like to rewire? Smoking. And what's the negative thought? That's the action.
The negative thoughts, I do enjoy it, but I'm consciously aware that it's harmful to me,
Right.
and I need to think about my health and take small acts of self-control.
And so when you're about to have a smoke, what's the thought that comes up? Like, oh, it's time for a cigarette. Or is there because you still want to have the negative thought that says, I need to change this. That's probably healthy. What's the thought that goes on as you're about to smoke?
I'm seeking pleasure over
Is that the thought?
Yes.
And So
It makes me feel good.
makes you feel good, yeah. And that's a powerful drawing, which we all have. You see it right here where we are now. Surface Paradise, people have drinks, they have alcohol and lots of other things to make them feel good.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. They want to feel good. Now, there's a bunch of things going on in the background. There's like a little program, and it's a thought. What do you think the thought would be that pops up just as you're about to have a cigarette? Or you're about to go reaching for one? Is there a thought or is it a feeling that you're getting?
It's a feeling.
Feeling, so we've got a feeling. So you've got a feeling, which is also known as kinesthetic. So I put a K there, kinesthetic. It's a feeling you're getting. And if you've got a feeling, what is the feeling that comes up?
It's a physical and mental sensation that I want to enjoy myself.
So enjoy myself. Got it. So enjoy myself is attached to smoking. Now sometimes we have to look at the ecology, like are there other ways you can enjoy yourself, and giving the unconscious mind other alternatives as well that will give something like that feeling or head you down that path enough that you don't feel like you're losing something. But for the purposes of the Swish pattern, we'll give it a go on that particular thought pattern of I want to enjoy myself. Is that how you would say it? Is that the expression? What would the words you think to yourself be that leads you there?
It's a feeling that I want to reward myself.
I want to reward myself, right?
Or I'm having a crappy day, but I want to take my mind off the crappy day.
Yeah. Got it. Well, that's a crappy day. There we go. Having a crappy day. Having a bad day. So if you're having a bad day, that's probably a lot more appropriate for this technique that will help you maybe reduce the urge to go for a smoke. It might not necessarily change it, but it'd be interesting to play with that inside yourself. So you're having a crappy day, and that's the thought that's coming up, that's firing off the feeling that then heads you down the path of enjoying myself smoking. I want to enjoy myself, I want a reward because of having a crappy day, right? So that's the thought pattern. Now, what we do, having a crappy day, right? Access that feeling, that thought, whatever goes on inside yourself for a moment. Having a crappy day, you've got that, have you got an image or a feeling or a thought that's coming up for you right now? When that happens?
You know, probably a feeling doing something that I don't want to do and it's not fulfilling or satisfying also. So, could be something to do with lack of stimulation and boredom.
Yeah. Yep. So doing something you don't want to do, got it. And to do with boredom, yeah? Stimulation, etc. That sounds great. So you've got that there. So here's the first little thing. Now this is what we'll call like half of the Swish pattern. And that is playing with the pictures, the feelings, or the sounds in your mind that are around this, having a crappy day, you're doing something you don't want to do. You've probably accessed an old memory or a recent memory where you've had that moment and it's led you down having a cigarette. So there you are, you're having a bad day. Does that come up as a picture, as a feeling, or a thought, or a sound? Like what's going on inside you as you think about having a crappy day, you're not being stimulated. How do you represent that inside yourself, that boredom? Is it coming up?
You know, I'd like to elaborate a little bit.
Sure.
Taxi driver, every time you got a job, you want to have a cigarette. So you order yourself, just receive the job and you're able to make what you do, you want to reward yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you've got downtime, you're always go out and cigarettes to kill the time.
Got it.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Right, so you do the positive thing, and then you have the negative side of it, which is that I need to kill time, and the cigarette's just the natural way to go about it. And so you've got that lack of stimulation. And that memory that just come up, that story that just came up, was that coming up as a picture? Or could you see a picture in your mind? Was it a feeling in the body? Like what was going on inside you?
I can see that when they're winding down.
You can see it.
I can see myself, yeah.
So you've accessed the picture. So we started off with a K feeling. Now we've got a visual picture. So we're starting to get into how you've stored this inside your mind and your body. So you've got the picture, you've got the feeling. And so which is stronger? Is it the feeling or the picture? Like it was a pretty vivid picture? Was it a vivid picture? A very strong picture?
No, probably would say a strong picture.
Great. And are there any sounds coming through with that? Was anyone saying anything? Are there any voices going on in your mind?
Yes, because you're not meant to smoke in the taxi, what I always did, so the body image you shouldn't be doing this.
And is that you shouldn't be doing this? I like that. You shouldn't.
And I think that could be the volume of my subconscious mind accessing my memory to tell me you shouldn't be doing this. This is not allowed, but this makes you feel good because you're going to get rewarded once you do it.
So that you shouldn't be doing this, you've now accessed some auditory, A, which is the volume. Let's start with that. Is that loud? Or is it soft? How loud is that voice? What's the volume like?
I'd give it, a good volume,
Out of 10, what would it be?
I'd give it a good 8.
8. So you got an 8.
7.5.
A 7.5 out of 10. All right, so that's cool. That's a really good image to look at. Sound to look at. So you got this sound. It's 8 out of 10. And so if you think about that sound, and if you were to close your eyes for a moment, what you can do is imagine you've got a slider. You know those old sliders on the old stereo? You move it across and the sound would go down. And you move it to, I think it was back to the right, and it would go back up again. It was always left was low, right was high. So if you slide that sound and reduce it, we'll start with that. You're going to play with the picture, give you the skill to reduce the sound of this noise, right? And then we'll do some other stuff soon. But this is about building skill, right? So close your eyes for a moment and go back to that memory. You shouldn't be doing this. Move the slider so that that volume goes down to 0. And tell me what happens inside.
It's done automatically.
It's gone automatically. That's pretty powerful, isn't it? So when you do that, what's the volume in there now?
Well,
Out of 10.
well, I'm not feeling guilty. I haven't got that feeling, so I'm feeling quite jubilated.
Jubilant. That's great. Jubilant. So you've got this. You've taken that voice and you've reduced it, right? Now sometimes these voices can be useful. Maybe we do need to have this voice to stop the smoking, right? But you've taken the guilt out of what you were doing. But of course, we want to try and get to not smoke, right? But that's the first step, is about reducing the negative, and then we'll attach the positive, so you don't need to chase the smoking later on. So you shouldn't be doing this. You got the volume. You've reduced the volume. What about the picture of you being in the taxi? You see the picture of you in the taxi with the window down?
Every time.
Every time. So imagine that picture, and of course the more useful thing might be to grab the moment before you're having the smoke, not whilst you're having the smoke. But we'll play around with the picture just so you can have a sense of what's going on inside you. So you've got the picture, right? And you've got the picture. I want you to pretend like you can draw a big black frame around it. How big would the picture be in your mind's eye? because we store pictures in space. How big would it be? Use your hands. Show me how big.
I'd probably say the same size as getting an infringement notice sent by the transport department of them catching you red-handed.
Well, that's an interesting one. It's that picture. What's the infringement notice it's about? Maybe this. So you got that particular size infringement notice. Once again, we do need these warning signals. So I'm sort of reticent to help you reduce all those feelings because we need to have some of those, right? But I'm going to give you an internal experience, but you can keep whichever warning signals you want. And so you've got this picture. Imagine that you are reducing that picture. Can you take that picture and shrink it down to the size of a 5-cent piece?
Could I?
Can you shrink it down? In your mind's eye, remember it's all a hologram. Closing your eyes will go. Or can you push it further away from you?
I think I could push it further away, but...
Okay. So how far away would it be from your face?
10 feet.
10 feet, so out here somewhere. And so you got this picture, it's out here. If you move it to the other side of Surfers Paradise, can you do that? Or to maybe 200 yards down the street. If you close your eyes, the picture's 10 feet away.
Yeah, it's...
If you shift it further away, what happens?
Oh, it reduces, and the less I think about it, and the bigger the distance is.
Fantastic. So it's reducing how much you're thinking about it. This is an old memory, remember? This is an old memory of your old taxi days. And so these feelings are so strong. And how many years ago did you drive taxis?
It would have been sort of 2000, you know.
The year 2000?
Yeah, about 2 or 3 years, you know.
So it's 20 years ago?
Yes, 20 years.
So this is a memory from 20 years ago that you still feel guilt when you bring up the memory because you were smoking in a taxi. So it's probably useful to remove.
Every time I got a job, I got
Yeah, that's amazing. So here we are, we've got a volume, you shouldn't be doing this, it was 8 out of 10. You've reduced that and it changed the feelings in the body. You had a picture in your mind, you've moved that 100 yards down the street from 10 feet away, and that, what did that do inside of you?
It made me a happier place.
Made you a happier place. This is a 20-year-old memory that's giving you bad feelings now. So that's actually quite useful in itself. And then the last one is the feelings are being affected. And so you have the feeling of guilt pop up, which is putting you down the scale of consciousness.
Yes.
So if we can get control of that, then we can fire off something better instead. So we can take this 20-year-old memory and do a swish pattern on that so that you don't have to feel anything about that. We can still work on your smoking now in other processes, but that's probably a good memory. Which, why would a 20-year-old memory make you feel bad? And part of that is your self-concept about your values, and back then you're not living to your values. That's why your voice is saying you shouldn't be doing this. So it's an interesting little bit of self-discovery you're going through.
And there wasn't that, and also there wasn't that fulfillment or satisfaction in doing the actual job. So,
Right. So the fulfillment, whereas right now you're much more fulfilled because you are doing your palmistry. You are doing all the other things that you're doing, and these things fulfill you. So you've learned something about life. That feels good, doesn't it?
positively,
Yeah. So you've just had a bit of experience. So how do you feel about your ability now, if you were to reduce the volume of the voice? You've got a new tool, don't you? And you can do this with any negative thought. If it's just running by itself, the monkey mind's just taking over, reduce the volume of the voice. Do you think you could do that by yourself anytime? Do you want?
Yes, I think I could do that without hesitation. You know what? But, you know, another feeling that I get is also wind your window down. You can throw it out the window. You've always got it there to look back on. You remember?
Oh, the picture you made.
Oh yeah, with the cigarette goes out and
The cigarette.
and you can see it as a reflector.
And does that represent that memory.
Oh yeah.
So you can sort of have a mental image of you doing that. Of course, you know, we probably don't want to do it in the real world because these days you get fined for such things. But it's a mental process of getting rid of the memory. So if you were to then drive down the road in your mind's eye, and you got the memory in your head and you threw it out like a cigarette butt, like you might have done in the 1970s or 1980s and got away with it, and you do that in your mind's eye now and see how it feels. So close your eyes, you've got the picture, and the picture is like a cigarette butt, but the picture is you've got the window down, and you wind down the window. It's the picture of you in that moment, having the cigarette with the voice, you shouldn't be doing this. So close your eyes for a moment and throw it out the window and watch it in the rear vision mirror as it gets further and further away. As you're doing 100 kilometers an hour, that thing's becoming a dot really fast because you're getting further and further. Now you're 100 yards away, further and further. Now you're 200 yards away. And you keep on driving and it's now gone around the corner on the freeway. It's gone in the distance. You're a kilometre away. How do you feel?
I feel like I'm on a new path, a new journey. And,
New path, new journey,
and a new direction.
new direction. That's great. So that is the negative thought neutralizer. You turn down the volume, push the picture further away or shrink it down, and the feelings in the body you reduce just by playing with those two parts. So these three are all connected. Some people go straight to the feeling and you do things there. Other people go to the picture. Some people go to the volume. If you play with the picture and the volume, it will always affect the feeling. If you play with the feeling of the picture, the volume will change. Or if you change the feeling and the volume, the picture will change. So you're changing the structure, playing with the structure of not the content so much. We talked about the content, but we actually got to bits of your memories from 20 years ago, and you can change how you feel about it. Is that useful as a starting point, that negative neutralizer?
Yes.
So that's the first one, right? And so that's activity one. And now we move to activity number two. And activity two is the positive ideal self, right? So if we use this same negative thought, because it's useful, we've got a bit of content and material to work with. And that's you 20 years ago as a taxi driver, feeling guilty for smoking. And so there you are, you're feeling guilty, it's the same memory, we'll work with that. So now we can create the opposite thought. So you think about the opposite thought or feeling of that's a more powerful and more empowering, more positive. For when you was in that car, what would be, you had the word guilt, what would be the opposite that would feel good? An opposite thought or feeling. So you got the feeling of guilt, what was the opposite for you? So you're in the car, you're having a smoke, you've got this comment over here, which was you shouldn't be doing this. What's the opposite to that for you?
The opposite to that, I'd probably say it was probably the importance of the person that I was picking up.
The importance of the person you were picking up. Right. So you got the importance of the person you were picking up. So the importance, where are we? And what's important about that?
The importance was the person that I was picking up would notice and it would affect their opinion.
Right, so they'll notice and it'll affect their opinion. And what's important about that?
Is that sometimes it's important to impress people that maybe the whole.
So it's important to impress people. And these people are what? You need to impress them. Why? What's the?
You know, I'll give you an example. There are certain It's like picking a movie star. You've got another run a cigarette before you're going to pick the blood fire. There's something that you want to leave or give it to pressure so that you're more caring, positive emotions, you'll be caring.
Right, so caring.
Caring about the thoughts of others.
About the thoughts of others, yeah?
So I think that's my power for caring about the thoughts of others. And taking my opinions on myself.
So externally focused. So what's the emotion you get? Like, have you had times in your life, let's go back, what is the emotion you get from caring about the thoughts of others? What does that give you? Purpose. So it gives you purpose. And so what is the purpose? What's the purpose it's giving you? Like, is there
The purpose would need to be seen in a favourable light.
right. So with the words in your mouth, would the word be like acceptance? Is there a higher chunk up word like that?
Yes.
What would be a better word to it? Like a single word, like I get acceptance, I get. What would be another word that in your word would be more important?
Acceptance.
Yeah, is that the right word? So purpose, acceptance. And that gives you what kind of a feeling of trust? Great. So trust, and that's a lot of security around trust because you've been accepted into the tribe of humans or whichever group you're in. And so if you think about a time when you had acceptance and trust in people because you were behaving in all the ways that you like to behave, coming back to, so we've looked at the opposite, we're getting close to that, and now we've got this word ideal self. So the word ideal self. Now can you imagine a version of you, your ideal self, that solved all these problems, that doesn't ever think about that taxi driver you from 20 years ago, never has any of that guilt. They've solved all their problems. They've got lots of purpose. They're getting acceptance from people. They're trusting themselves and people are trusting them, not trusting you. Caring about the thoughts of others, which is about that nurturing relationships, and there's lots of other things going on. Can you imagine that ideal self? Version of you.
Oh yes.
It's like a future version of you.
Oh yes. Oh, if we could only change the past, we create the beautiful.
Well, what if we change this moment and we actually create this new generalization? This is what we do in coaching in the Swish Pattern. We have all these generalizations about ourselves. They're not all accurate, but we make them up and they are true to us, absolute truth. But we've still created it from what we've found in our environment, right? So the question is, when we think about your ideal self, we're going to make, this is going to be the second picture. So you've got the first picture of the taxi driver having a smoke and feeling guilty. That's the negative thought. The positive thought is going to be your ideal self. If you were to see yourself walking down the street, right? Seeing yourself, this is this ideal self, and this person walks past right now. And as they're walking past, how do they carry themselves when they've solved all these problems?
Got that head up, you big smile on your face, and they're skipping.
And they're skipping.
Yeah.
Woo! That's great. So you've got a picture which is coming up now of skipping. So you've got smile on the face, head high, and skipping. So that's a good generalization, isn't it? So if I go to, so let's put the, because I've got too many words on the board, let's change this up. Ideal self. So this is the second picture that we've been putting up. Right, this is the version of you that solved all those problems. And it's a nice generalization because we can keep adding to it and it can help you in all areas of your life, right? And so we've got head high, you're seeing yourself. Skipping, I think I was heard. And you're seeing yourself smiling. That's great. And so you're smiling. What else do you see? And let's build a really strong version of this ideal self. So you've got this image, you're seeing yourself.
The sun's out, the sky's blue.
Yeah. Sky is blue. Yep. He's smiling. What is he thinking to himself? His ideal self.
This is how life should be.
This is how life should be. Okay, so this is how life should be. The sun's out, the sky is blue, smiling, skipping along, head's held high. What's he wearing?
He's wearing sunglasses, board shorts.
Oh, very surface paradise, isn't it?
And he might frolic in the, he might go frolicking in the water.
Frolicking. I don't know how to spell frolicking. Excuse me. Frolicking in the water. Yes. Oh, so this is how do you
He
feel?
might get thirsty as well.
Thirsty?
He might get thirsty in parts, he might get to rehydrate himself as well.
He can rehydrate himself. This is your ideal self. Head high, skipping, smiling, sun's out. This is how life should be. Sunglasses. What's the feeling you get when you access this future? Freedom. Wow, you're loving that. So this is a pretty powerful ideal self, isn't it? It's pretty powerful. This is powerful. Where do you feel freedom in the body?
Where do I feel freedom in the end? Probably in my mind.
In your mind. And what's the colour of that freedom in your mind?
I don't think I can articulate it.
Any shape to it? First answer the question.
Shooting a goal.
Shooting a goal.
Taking a penalty.
Saving a penalty.
Taking a penalty.
Oh, taking it. All right. Shooting. Taking a penalty goal. As in football, soccer, those who are from other parts of the world. So I like that. So you've kicked a goal. It's a great metaphor. So you're kicking a goal, you're in your mind, the feelings in your mind, it's freedom, you can see yourself with the sunglasses on, this is how it should be, so that's what you call auditory digital, that's the thought side of it. The sun's out, the sky is blue, you're smiling, that could be a kinesthetic or a picture, because smiling can be an emotion or it could be a picture. If you're seeing it, you're skipping, you're seeing that visually, and that could also be a feeling, a sensation of skipping. Your head's held high, you're seeing the visual of that. So we've got a strong self-concept as a starting point. So if you put all that together, is there an image that comes to your mind? Is there an image that, like, is it this shooting the goal? Is that the image that is strong enough for you for firing off good feelings in the body?
I think it's the an action you take and you risk and you don't mind the risk.
Yep. Great. So you've got would
So
shooting the goal be a good picture to summarise that as a generalisation?
So the general inaction saps the vigour of our mind. So I'm going to take the penalty.
You've got to take the penalty because it's all about action and risk and reward, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome building blocks. So you got this picture, we've just accessed this ideal self. Now we've accessed the ideal self. Think about where was the words? This is how it should be. This is how life should be. We'll start with the auditory of that, the volume of it. So if you take the volume of this, how it should be, what's the volume at its score out of 10? How high is that volume right now?
I'd say 7.
7? So you're currently 7 out of 10 now.
Yeah, good 7.
So let's start with the auditory. If you turn up the volume, maybe you can do it like an old school tape deck recorder where you turn the knob and the volume would go up. If you take that 7 out of 10, you turn up the volume, make it as loud as you can, make it 10 out of 10. How does that work in your mind? What happens inside you?
Oh no, that's a good feeling. That's a very good feeling. That's
What's the feeling that fires off when you do that?
Lucky. Gratitude, appreciation,
Gratitude.
stimulus, satisfaction.
Satisfaction. So these feelings, if you've noticed, are actually the opposite of 20-year ago memory taxi driver, where you weren't feeling any stimulation, no satisfaction, no appreciation, no gratitude. It's like the opposite. So it's a really good flip. So that if that fires off, you can swish it straight away. That is activity 2. Right, so activity 1 was the negative thought, which we access to play with to reduce it. Ideal self is activity 2, which is expanding the ideal self, making it stronger. Now we've got the 2 building blocks to do activity number 3. Activity number 3 is the swish pattern. Welcome to the swish pattern. Now we're actually going to do it in your head right now. And we can do it in a number of ways. And I've done this myself many times, all the time. I do it sometimes auditorily with sounds. I sometimes do it with pictures. So you can do it with auditory, you can do it with pictures, and you can do it, I've done it with a couple of people. One coach taught me to do it with feelings. And it's whatever works for you. We can have the sound, we can have the picture, and we can have the feeling, and use that. But because you come up with a very strong, you've used your auditory very well, very strongly, and you've used your visual very well, and it's fired off the feelings, which was beautiful, nice. That's a little program going on. And so we can use these 2 building blocks that we just had to swish the pattern. So this is what we're going to do inside your mind, right? So you've just gone and accessed all this stuff. It's like a little coaching 101. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take the negative thought that you had, which for you was the taxi, right? It had a whole lot of pictures and associations, but it was you and you wanted out the window, that's what you can see. That's the picture. That's picture 1. Picture 2, the ideal self, which is the big generalization you just made. And what was that again? Let's go and have a look. The ideal self, head high, smiling, skipping, sun's out, this is how it's meant to be, sunglasses, 40s on, frolicking in the water, freedom, taking a penalty goal. So you've got this image, right? It's a really strong image. And what's going to happen is we're going to take that image, and we're going to create a picture and put it in the smaller corner of this other picture. So you've got the negative thought image in your mind's eye, we'll put the ideal self, and what we'll do is we'll shrink down the negative thought down to the bottom, and we'll expand the positive thought so that the positive thought takes over. And this is where we're introducing Hebbs' law, right? So Hebbs' law is we're going to fire off, we've just built and accessed a whole neurology for you, and we're going to connect to that old taxi driver 20 years ago that makes you feel guilty. We're going to swish over the top the ideal self. Sound good? Yeah. All right. So let's do that now. So what we're going to do is I'll get you to close your eyes in a little personal coaching session. Can you access picture number 1, which is the taxi driver? Have you got that picture in your mind's eye? Yeah. Now in the bottom right-hand corner, very small and dark, you put the ideal self, so let it nestle over there, which is you taking the penalty. Right? Down in the bottom corner there. You got that there? Yeah. Now what I want you to do is I want you to swish, and say the word swish when you do it, the ideal self take over the screen and shrink down the negative thought at the same time. Okay, so when I count to 3, I'll get you to do it. 3, 2, 1, and say swish.
Swish.
Ideal self, big and bold, negative thought down to the bottom left and disappearing.
Yeah.
Access that picture of the ideal self. Does it feel good? Are you taking a penalty? What's going on?
Oh yeah, yeah, satisfaction. Yeah.
Satisfaction, loving it, and keep that picture there. Really feel the feelings of that satisfaction. Allow it to wash through every part of your body. Allow the satisfaction, and when you feel that satisfaction inside you,
it's space, it's calm, it's relaxing.
peace, relaxing. Beautiful. Just enjoy those feelings. Allow them to spin around. Notice that feeling nestling around your heart. Closing your eyes just for a moment. Notice that feeling in your heart. And allow that feeling to spin around in the direction of the satisfaction. Spin that feeling around. Allow it to go faster and faster and get stronger and stronger as you access that picture of the ideal self. Imagine those words that you were saying to your ideal self, the beautiful words that you said, those words of feeling incredible, those words which are over here, this is how it should be. Mention those words. How do you feel when you access that?
At peace.
At peace. Beautiful. This is how it should be.
Content.
At peace. And content. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to connect it. Then we continue to connect it. And what I'm going to do, so I'm going to make it go faster and faster and faster so your brain starts to connect, right? Okay, so close your eyes again. Bring up negative thought number 1, the taxi driver. Yeah? Negative thought, taxi driver. You got that?
Yeah.
Bottom right-hand corner, ideal self. This is how it should be. And now swish.
Swish.
And big and bright, satisfaction, peace, kicking the goal, taking the penalty. This is how it's meant to be. At peace, content, feeling good. You got that feeling?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now imagine a whiteboard. We'll blank the screen for a moment.
Yeah.
And close your eyes again. And now bring up picture number 1. Negative thought, taxi driver. You got that?
Yeah.
Picture 2, bottom left. Bottom right, should I say. 3, 2, 1, swish. Ideal self, big and bright, goal, taking your penalty, satisfaction, peaceful, relaxed, feeling good. You got that feeling?
Yeah.
Alright, now imagine a whiteboard. You can do it faster. Just play along. Bring up picture 1, taxi, you got that?
Yeah.
Picture 2, bottom right, got that?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, swish.
Yeah.
Say the word swish.
Swish.
Big and bright, ideal self, satisfaction, peace. This is how it should be. You got that?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now imagine a whiteboard. I'll go faster and faster now, and we'll get your brain to sync up, all right? So faster and faster. So picture 1, you got that? Taxi. Picture 2, bottom right, ideal self.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, swish.
Yeah.
Big and bright, ideal self. This is how it should be. Feeling good. You got that? Imagine a whiteboard, clear the screen. Back to the taxi driver. Got the taxi driver?
Yeah.
Closing your eyes. Taxi driver, bottom right, ideal self. Got that?
Yeah.
Swish. And now I'll go even faster, okay?
Yeah.
Whiteboard. Now I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, down. We'll go like that. So picture 1, taxi driver, you got it? Picture 2, ideal self, bottom right.
Yeah.
Swish. Say swish.
Swish.
Whiteboard. Now even faster. 1, taxi driver, got that?
One. Yeah.
2 bottom right, ideal self, swish,
Swish.
whiteboard. 1 taxi driver, 2 ideal self, swish, 1, 2, swish,
Swish.
1, 2, swish,
Swish.
1, 2, swish, and relax. I'm dancing around here.
Yeah.
So now, as a bit of a test,
You know,
bring up the taxi driver picture for me and
Yeah.
tell me what happens inside you.
I can't relate to it.
Can't relate to him.
Uh,
That's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just becomes a memory. It doesn't have to fire off the guilt now.
Yeah.
And so, can you do that in your own head now? If you close your eyes, I want to see if you can do it by yourself. If you bring up the taxi driver,
Yeah.
does the ideal self swish automatically?
It's gone out of the equation.
Gone out the equation? Can you bring in the ideal self and swish it anytime you want by yourself? Just try and do it by yourself now. I want to see if you can manually do it.
I believe I can. It's
Okay, so taxi driver, bring up.
It's something where I can't articulate about the taxi driver.
That's good. So you're struggling to access the clarity you had before,
Yeah.
which is probably a good thing
Yeah.
because it wasn't helping.
Yeah.
It wasn't useful. So if you bring up the taxi driver now, we'll do another round if you want and see if we can automatically get the ideal self to swish.
You know, we're doing this week, so I don't want to go back there to the taxi driver because I've done this week.
You don't want to get back there.
No.
You're quite happy.
Yes,
You've all resolved it.
Yeah, no, I don't want to go back there.
That's great.
You know, it's, yeah.
That's awesome. So that's the swish pattern, right? It's called Hebbs law because the neurons that are firing together are now wiring together. So when you access the old taxi driver, does ideal self come up? What happens when you access the taxi driver now? I know you don't want to, but just for a moment, we can always swish it more.
You know, it's positive against negative, so I don't really want to make it negative, right? Well, just positive, you know.
Well, the thing is, anytime the negative comes up, so you don't spiral downwards, to go back to the start of the session, you had a moment of guilt,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But you started off with willingness. So it depends on what memory you access. We can easily spiral ourselves down pretty quickly to a very low energy. And when you're in a low energy, what happens?
Well, low energy, we attract the things we don't want in our life.
We attract the things we don't want in our life. Exactly. So this is about getting this spiral to go up. Or at least let's not lose our position that we're in, which is a good vibration. So that is the theory of the swish pattern. So now if you think inside your mind, and you've got the old statement and the new statement, you can use the verbal noises, or the sounds, or the things that were said, and you can reduce the volume whilst increasing the volume on the other one. So let's just do a quick switch on the words, but use the auditory version. So you've used very successfully, let's go back. You've used very successfully the two statements. One was, where was it? You started off happy, I shouldn't be doing this, right? And I'll do a new page for this. So that's the negative. That means particular things for yourself. And then the positive side of that, in activity 2, was this one here, which was, what is it? Opening up like itself. And it was, this is how it should be. inner peace, satisfied, etc. Right? So those are the two. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick this because I don't want you to access that too much. I want you to access all of this one. So the idea is, what's the volume? If you take the volume, what's the volume of this? I shouldn't be doing this. What's the volume right now in your head of that? Volume, just the auditory volume. Out of 10.
I was going to be doing now, 6.
6. And what's the volume of this, how it should be?
Oh, let's get up to 9.
9 out of 10. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, so that's very strong. So if you've got this, I shouldn't be doing this. So what I'm going to get you to do, you've got your 6 out of 10, you know where the dial is. And what you want, you've got 2 sliders. On one side, you've got the negative, which is the 6 out of 10. I'm going to slide that all the way to 0. And at the same time, I'm going to slide up the satisfied, this is how it should be. So I shouldn't be doing this, to this is how it should be. And the volume is going to change. So I'll get you to close your eyes so you get rid of the visual field for a moment. In your head, say, this, I shouldn't be doing this. See the 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Slide it down at the same time. This is how it should be. Slide it up at the same time.
Yeah.
And what happens inside you when you slide that up?
I feel like it feels like a mode flow.
Yep.
That I'm feeling more relaxed.
More relaxed. That's nice. So you're feeling more relaxed. So what you can do is, if you ever hear this voice, I shouldn't be doing this, swish it like that. Then bring the volume down for the negative, bring the volume down to 0, and lift this one up to 10 at the same time. So you swish that one first, and you do that in your mind's eye. I shouldn't be doing this. Reduce that down to 0, and then lift up straight away. This is how it should be. Peace and satisfied. How does that feel?
It feels like a pendulum in my mind. That's more focused on the things that I want than the things that we programmed to do.
More focus on the things you want and not the things that have been programmed for you. So has that taken you to a more empowered place?
Very much so.
And so could you now, if any of those negative taxi driver days 20 years ago pops up in your mind, what would you use to get into an empowered state from this little session?
Reduce the volume, make it a distant memory, and focus on the relaxing, fulfilling and satisfying.
Fantastic, the ideal self. And you just built a generalization about your future self, which is actually living in you now. And so that generalization, you can now use that everywhere in your life. When you go to reach for a cigarette, you can swish it off and see what happens. I'm not saying you give up smoking, but maybe you might not smoke as much, who knows? Because you get to choose this mental tool to use for yourself whenever you want.
I never had a cigarette before 27.
You didn't have a cigarette before you were 27 years of age? Wow. And so then something obviously happened.
Well, the life changed where sport was involved, no longer doing sport.
Yeah. It's easy. You go to the pub, it's very easy to do. So that is the session, and so going back to our emotional level, where would you be now after that little session?
I'd probably say 400 reasons.
400 reasons. You're feeling like a very more empowered time or place. So you're in reason and you're feeling like you can do yourself. That's a good shift in energy, isn't it?
Very much so.
And so if you went into action at 400, do you think you'd be more effective?
Yes. 100% more effective.
And so this is why I brought in the energy scale, because it shows us how we can go up and down, but you can start to master this and not drop so far down, you know, for things that happened 20 years ago. So going back to rewiring, replacing it with what you want instead. That's what we've done today. We've rewired a negative thought, negative self-talk, which led to guilt, and we've replaced it and lifted you up to from willingness to, what was the word you said? Reason and 400. So you've gone from a moment you accessed 30 and you've gone up to 400. So that's like more than 10 times the energy. So when you think about that, that is effectively the session. Done our introductions. Why would we want it? We want to lift our energy. We've used Hebbs' law via the Swish Pattern. We've played around with the negative self-talk. We've created a positive ideal generalization, and we've used the Swish Pattern in a variety of ways, using auditory and imagery. We can also use emotions as another technique for that. And that is how we can connect the positive to the negative, so we're in a higher energy. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Wow. Well, that was amazing, Matt.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you.
My pleasure. And so any questions you've got about the process you just went through? Is there any ahas, epiphanies, questions, takeaways?
What is the difference between our thoughts and our feelings?
Our thoughts generate our feelings, but the feelings can actually generate the thoughts. There's a guy by the name of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about that. Neuroscience-wise, they've measured these feelings come up from the body through the vagus nerve and a variety of other things. It fires up a thought in the head, and we get stuck in this loop. And I reckon by the time you're 35, we're stuck in the past because the body's trying to hold on to the same feelings. It might be addicted to guilt, it might be addicted to shame, it might be addicted to the low ones. And it'll fire off the thought in the brain to keep it going because the body's hungry, the dendrites, they want these feelings. And it fires off the thought, and then the thought goes back down to generate the feeling again. So we get stuck. And so the idea is to release out of the body those emotions. That's one of the things I specialise in. And to rewire the thinker of the mind. So the two things are connected, they are working together as a team, but they are very different. Do you think about the negative thought you had about I shouldn't be doing this in the taxi, which then fired off the feeling of guilt because it had a meaning. So the feeling is a result of the feeling. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And each feeling makes a subconscious impression.
Absolutely. And the feelings is what the unconscious is really the unconscious mind's language. Right? The conscious mind and the unconscious mind speak different languages, but it's the feelings that draw them together. And it's about trying to figure out how did one talk to the other, because there's a meaning that generates the feeling. For example, Formula One drivers like Schumacher, they were saying he has a very low guilt factor in his thinking. He doesn't feel guilty because he doesn't have that meaning. If I do this, it's going to cause that person pain. They don't care. And to be a Formula One driver, you can't have that guilt factor. You've got to be ruthless to make it work, right? To win the race, to be the best. And so they notice the psychology of those people. They don't have a guilt thinking process and meaning. So there's a different meaning system. So that's very interesting, isn't it? How that process plays out. It's like that, you know, how do we get to those feelings? And the unconscious mind's involved that impression, absolutely. But it's the meaning-making machine that causes the feeling.
And which feeling, the dominant, the feeling is the one that needs to be expressed.
It always will be. The dominant feeling will be, well, if it's not, it'll be repressed. If the dominant feeling is repressed, the dominant feeling is held back, it comes out in other ways. You know, it comes out in body, it comes out in illness, it comes out in anger, it comes out in, it'll spit it'll find, it's like holding a beach ball underwater. It pops out somewhere. You don't know where it's going to pop out, but it'll come out from under your arm, and the beach ball won't be held down because the bigger the beach ball, the bigger the emotion, the more it'll pop out somewhere. And sometimes it comes out in mental health, sometimes it comes out in physical health. Things like cancer is related to anger. I think it's Louise L. Hay has connected all those up, where different emotions are connected to different physical ailments and diseases, and different mental diseases, or mental illnesses. They're not actually mental illnesses, they say, or she says, it's more a response to things that have happened. It's a response to not having a need met. It's an emotion not expressed and a meaning taken from it. So that's a whole other set of books to go and unpack.
Well, you did come up with a restaurant for an hour.
That's right. I love it. I love this stuff so much. So anyway, that's probably it for today. So I'll stop the session there. I'll stop the recording just over here. Thank you, Steve, for coming. Thank you for the session.
Thank you, Matthew. That was spellbound. It truly was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. I'll stop the recording here, and thank you to everyone who's watching on YouTube.